Finally, the Act also has orders on filming. The ministry says there are specific situations where the recording of an ongoing incident could jeopardize the success of security operations or the safety of officers. So the Act empowers officers to prohibit persons from filming, communicating and exhibiting films of such activities. Parliament will debate provisions of the bill at its next sitting.
Changes to the Film Act have been approved to give more space for political expression. Under the changes, political parties will be able to use films during an election period, but that's provided they are factual and objective. Regulations on internet election advertising have also been relaxed. In making the changes, the government acknowledges that Singapore society is changing and more young people want more space for political debate. But it cautions there is a downside.
If our democracy is reduced to slick commercials, clever editing, sharp sound bites, and political spin, then I think our democracy is being debased. So I would say that when we craft this, we are very much aware of the need to make sure that even as we liberalize, that we continue to want to make sure that the debate is serious, it is robust, it is rational.
The government further liberalises and expands the space for political debate. Hello and welcome to In Parliament. Parliament has passed the Films Amendment Bill. This means that certain types of films which would otherwise be termed party political films will now be allowed. Such films can also be used for internet election advertising. The Independent Political Films Consultative Committee will advise the Board of Film Censors on whether any film is a party political film. Moving the second reading of the bill, Senior Minister of State for Information, Communications and the Arts, ZAQY, says the government recognises that the texture of society has changed and it's prepared to make further changes when appropriate.
Our generation of young Singaporeans today are different. They want more of the following: space for political discourse, greater engagement with the government, and their views to be taken seriously by the government. So it's therefore important that the government learns to make better use of the medium of film and new media tools to reach out and engage, inform, educate and obtain the views of media-savvy Singaporeans.
While welcoming the government's intent to further liberalise and expand the space for political debate, MPs also voiced several concerns. One was the lack of clarity as to where the out-of-bounds markers lay. Some didn't understand the focus on format issues, like not being able to use animation and dramatisation. Nominated MP SIEW who opposed the bill, took issue with the point that only filming of lawful events are allowed.
It is not clear why the creation of a video recording of such an unlawful event should be illegal. It is also likely to create what can be called a nation of innocent criminals. For example, bystanders watching an assembly or procession may whip out their mobile phones to record videos of the event. They may not know whether the event was being held in accordance with the law.
I think the proposed bill should spell out exactly what it means instead of using vague language and broad constructs. To argue that film censorship is more an art than a science and the government will use a light touch is little comfort to serious producers on any side of the fence.
We must have more faith in our society to be able to distinguish acceptable political ideologies. Singaporeans are now better educated and are more matured. This means having a government that's comfortable in addressing misinformation and alternative perspectives and allowing Singaporeans to decide for themselves.
Responding to MP's concerns, Mr. Lui says the changes will help set out the parameters on what is acceptable, and it would also provide guidance to those who have to decide whether a film is considered a party political film. He says there will always be an element of subjectivity involved in the decision-making process, and it is up to the members of the Independent Political Films Consultative Committee to apply and interpret the parameters spelt out in the bill.
The composition of the PFCC will comprise people who are non-partisan, who are serious-minded, who will exercise sound, independent judgment. This will, I think, actually be an opportunity to try and move what are deemed party political films to be considered more quickly by a panel that is independent and for their views to be made known.